Good morning, good morning. It is 11:30 a.m. Eastern, and that means it's time for episode, are you ready? Episode 41 of First Chapter Fun. Good morning, Erica. Erica, my tech guru superstar who was helping us out yesterday figure out some technical issues. Thank you again for that. We have Glennie, we have Minerva McGonagall, of course, often watching. Good morning. We have Nancy on Facebook and Ali as well. This is absolutely lovely. Thank you so much for joining on this Sunday morning here anyway. Good morning, Megan. So if this is, good morning, Hank and Kendra. If this is the first time you've joined First Chapter Fun, boy oh boy, do you have a lot of episodes to go and catch up on. Good morning, Hank. So this is where from March 17th until May the 8th now, I am recording on Instagram Live down here on my iPad and Facebook Live up here on my phone. Now, I have to preface this, as I have been doing, that sometimes Facebook is very naughty, particularly Facebook, less so Instagram, and boots me out mid-recording. So if that happens, don't worry. Go make yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. I will continue recording on the platform that is letting me, and I will go back to the platform, generally Facebook, that booted me out and restart the recording. So lots of people joining. We have Michelle Cameron, and it's from Michelle's book I'm very excited to read to you from today. We have Era, we have Liz Nash Taylor as well. Fantastic, thank you, lovely to see you. Oh, Little House of Books all the way from the Netherlands. I'm going to give her a quick wave back. There we go. This is absolutely lovely. So many of you join regularly, which is great. And as always, I will save this video to my Instagram. Well, it'll be on my story, but I will then upload it to my feed so you can leave lots of comments and interact with Michelle there, and also on Facebook Live. So if you do have comments for Michelle right now or questions and whatnot, you can actually post them. I'm not sure if Michelle is watching on Instagram, but certainly on Facebook you can already leave comments and ask her questions about her book, about her past. Once I've read you her bio, I bet you'll have some questions. And Minerva just says, hi from France. Bonjour, comment ça va? I hope everything's well over in, well, as well as can be over in France or anywhere in the world, particularly at this point in time. So Michelle is on Facebook, so she's watching. Lovely that you were able to join in, and without too much faffing around now. Faffing around, there's an English expression for you. Let me show you Michelle's book, which is called Beyond the Ghetto Gates. Let me see if I can get that up close and personal for you. There we go, look at that cover. Historical fiction, as you can tell. There we go. Historical fiction, as you can tell, and this is out now. En fait aller. Minerva just said it's going, yeah, nous aussi. So Michelle's book was published on, oh, let me see now, what have I done with the page? Here we go, on April the 7th by Shira Press. And I should give a shout out, obviously, to all of the authors. All of these recordings are done with the permission of the authors and with permission of their publishers. So big shout out to all of the authors that have let me read for them up until now, and who will still let me read for them, including Michelle, and all of the publishers who have agreed to us doing this and me doing this and broadcasting for them. So this is lovely. Thank you very much. So let me tell you about Michelle and show you that cover again for those of you who just joined. This is today's book. There we go. I have to angle it a little bit. Beyond the Ghetto Gates, historical fiction, as I'm sure you can tell from that lovely cover, and this is out now. So let me introduce you to Michelle. Michelle Cameron is a director of the Writers' Circle, a New Jersey-based organisation that offers creative writing programs to children, teens and adults, and she's the author of historical fiction and poetry. So we have Beyond the Ghetto Gates, which was published by She Writes Press this year, just in April. Then we have The Fruit of Her Hands, The Story of Shira of Ashkenaz, published by Pocket in 2009. And In the Shadow of the Globe, published by Lit Pot Press in 2003. Michelle lived in Israel for 15 years, including 3 weeks in a bomb shelter during the Yom Kippur War. Michelle now lives in New Jersey with her husband and has 2 grown sons, of whom she is inordinately proud. And you can find out lots more about her and her books on her website, which is michelle-cameron.com, which is in the description of the video on Facebook Live. So, let me show you that cover again. As always, I like to show the cover for those of you who have just joined. Good morning, Juliet. Good morning, Anita. Lovely to see you. Good morning, Jeanette, also on Facebook. So this is today's book, Beyond the Ghetto Gates by Michelle Cameron. And I will now read you the blurb. When French troops occupy the Italian port city of Ancona, 2 very different cultures collide. Mirelle, a young Jewish maiden, must choose between her duty, an arranged marriage to a wealthy Jewish merchant, and her love for a dashing French Catholic soldier. Meanwhile, Francesca, a devout Catholic, must decide if she will honour her marriage vows to an abusive and murderous husband when he enmeshes their family in the theft of a miracle portrait of the Madonna. Sounds good, doesn't it? So I'm going to show you the cover again. And now I will read you. Of course, the screen had to shut down, didn't it? The first chapter of Beyond the Ghetto Gates by Michelle Cameron. Chapter 1. March 27th, 1796, Ancona, Italy. Mirelle sat at the desk in her father's office, staring blankly at the open cash box. Where was the money? Her heart hammered in her chest. 3 people had the key: herself, her father, and the ketubah, workshop foreman Sabato Narducci. It was inconceivable that her father or Narducci would have taken anything without a reason. But it was nearly April when Mirelle divvied out the men's quarterly wage packets, and there wasn't enough money in the box to pay them. The irrational thought that she had somehow miscounted made her scoop up the bills and coins again, hands trembling. The total was the same. Where is the money? Drawing a shaky breath, she pushed her hair out of her face and swivelled around to take the oversized ledger off the cabinet behind the desk. She let it fall open and spied a few notations in new columns on a fresh page in her father's cramped, somewhat untidy handwriting. She turned back a leaf and, sighing in relief, found the culprit. Scarlotti. After reading the amount Papa had paid the man, 853 scudi, she walked into the workroom, cradling the book to her chest, to find her father. Papa, may I talk to you? Simone d'Ancona looked up, clearly annoyed at the interruption. He was doing the work he loved best, illuminating a ketubah at his narrow standing desk at the back of the workshop. From there he explained to his wife and children he could watch over his men and still keep his hand in the work. But Mirelle knew that once engrossed in his craft, he did very little supervising. That role was generally left to Narducci. She didn't blame her father, however. She, too, knew the magical pull of immersing herself in the tasks she loved. For Papa, it was art. For her, Mirelle, it was numbers. What is it, child? The look of irritation faded, replaced by a fond smile. Mirelle glanced at the bent heads of the men in the workshop. Let's go into your office. He followed her back to the tiny office. Once inside, she opened the ledger. I thought we agreed to let me handle the accounts, she said gently, pointing to the suspect entry. And the payments. But you paid Scarlotti for this quarter's shipment of parchment, didn't you? He was pressing us for payment. Said we were late and he needed to pay his suppliers. You weren't here. What was I supposed to do? Mirelle shook her head as she moved her finger up the page. Look here. An identical payment was neatly recorded above. You paid him twice, Mirelle said, looking into his stricken face. Mamma took me to the market yesterday, remember? We saw Scarlotti there. He must have come here afterward to cheat us. His face turned plum red. A whole quarter's supply, more than 800 scudi. Mirel nodded. You must get it back, Papa, so we can pay the men. And, Papa, stay out of my books. Her father averted his gaze. I'll be more careful, that's all, he muttered. Mirel bit her lip. She could never convince her father that numbers befuddled him, that the accounts always became snarled when he touched them. Generally, she didn't mind rechecking his work and adjusting his errors. After all, it was his workshop. But this last mistake? If she hadn't caught it in time. She took a deep breath. Tell Signor Scarlotti to return our money today. Looking out the open office door, she lowered her voice. I'll calculate the men's pay packets so they're ready to fill when you return. This afternoon, he said, his head still turned away. She bit her lip as he moved to escape the office, looking like a trapped rabbit. She knew he hated confronting anyone, even though Scarlotti was just a blustering bully who would back down once faced with proof. Before he reached the door, Papa swiveled back. I'm grateful, child. She nodded and, as soon as he slipped away, turned to her figures. Adjusting her father's mistake, she wrote new totals at the bottom of the 2 columns. Deductions for parchment, ink, paints, cleansing oils. She wrote out the men's pay packets, then balanced expenses against the income from the commissions, most paid in soldi and lira, some in foreign coin, rubles and pounds sterling and francs. She created a list that helped her translate sums sent from as far off as Russia and the Americas. While she was absorbed in numbers, her father came back in and sat down at the corner of the desk to write letters. Soon the only sound was the scratch of his pen and the tick marks Mirel made in the ledger. They worked companionably for an hour before Narducci appeared in the doorway. We're almost ready to send the new ketubah to that American city, Savannah, Georgia, the foreman said. I want to show you the one designed for the rabbi and his bride. The men outdid themselves. He held up a sheaf of parchment. Papa shuffled his letters into a neat pile and placed them on his lap. Narducci laid the illuminated marriage certificate on the desk, while Mirel rose to stand behind the 2 men. Mirel was used to ketubot of all types, decorated with flowers and intricate spirals, biblical heroes, medieval creatures, signs of the zodiac and exotic animals. Colours ranged from vivid crimson and sapphire, rich violet and deep emerald to lighter pastels, soft pinks and yellows, celadon green and sky blue. Some took on a darker aspect, inky black backgrounds overlaid with lacy patterns bemusing the eye. Others were spare, the white vellum untouched, a single sprig of wildflowers, perhaps, or a simple scroll, but all enriched the same text, which read, Be my wife according to the law of Moses and Israel. I will work, honour, feed and support you in the custom of Jewish men who work, honour, feed and support their wives faithfully. I will give you the settlement of blank, as well as your food, clothing, necessities of life and conjugal needs according to the universal custom. Mirel stared at the blank space following settlement of. That amount, as well as the wife's dowry, were negotiated by the matchmaker and the parents of the young couple before the betrothal ceremony. She wondered idly what her own worth might be. 500 scudi? 1,000? Her mother's voice echoed in her head. How ironic, the daughter of Europe's foremost ketubah workshop remaining unwed and unsought. Mirel tossed her head. From what she'd seen of her mother's life, cooking, cleaning, trailing the men like an obedient bird, dusting tables and sweeping crumbs, following in those footsteps was the last thing she wanted. Exquisite, Papa said now, chasing her reverie away. It's a good thing you finished on time, Mirel teased the foreman. Papa was nervous that you'd missed the frigate. She ran a careful finger over the ragged edge of the parchment, adding softly, It's lovely. Simone d'Ancona was always in a hurry. How many mornings had Mirelle seen her father drink his morning coffee standing, shrugging on his shapeless overcoat as he took his final gulp? The slowness of his best workers often irritated him, but when he saw their gorgeous work, his impatience vanished, replaced by lavish praise. The Ketubah workshop was renowned worldwide, Mirelle knew, because of the quality of their craftsmanship. "I'll get the packing materials." Mirelle enjoyed wrapping the final ketubot for shipment, especially those that had far to travel. As she carefully rolled them into a tube, she loved to picture their journey, posted overland in a courier's satchel, placed in the hold of a merchant ship, and to imagine, at the end of the voyage, the bride and groom's delight, the pride with which they would display the beautiful certificate in their new home. Stepping into the workroom, Mirelle breathed in the combination of oils, paint and ink, sharply flavouring the air. The shop was filled with lines of tables surrounded by men on stools, hunched in concentration. Most rolled up their shirt sleeves or covered them with splattered work sleeves tied at the neck. Each man had a favourite set of implements, pens and ink, brushes and paint, which they placed upright in jars or laid in flat trays. 3/4 windows on either side of the room let in the daylight, a rarity in the ghetto, where most buildings were constructed so close together that the sun couldn't seep inside. Mirelle deftly bundled the marriage certificates into a neat package. Just as she finished, she felt a hand on her shoulder and turned. Papa stood before her, his face solemn. "Come with me." Mirelle followed him into his office. Reaching the door, she reared back in surprise. Rabbi Fano and her mother filled the space, the rabbi occupying the place of honour behind Papa's desk, Mama hovering in one corner, a shopping basket hanging on her arm. Papa couldn't shut the door, it was permanently stuck behind a cabinet, but the men who worked close by had moved off, giving them a semblance of privacy. Papa cleared his throat, looking everywhere but at Mirelle. The rabbi waited a second, watching him, but when he didn't speak, he fixed cold eyes on her face. "Mirelle," he said slowly, "I hope you are well, child." "Thank you, Rabbi." She bobbed a small curtsy, inwardly fuming at being called a child. When he nodded, his grey sidelocks swayed gently against hollowed cheeks. "Simone, would you explain to Mirelle why we're here?" Papa cleared his throat, eyes on the floor. "Rabbi Fano and I talked last week. He reminded me that you are of an age to think of marriage." So is she gonna get married? Is she gonna go for this arranged marriage, or is she not? What is Mirelle going to do? Here we go. That was a part of the first chapter of Beyond the Ghetto Gates, historical fiction by Michelle Cameron. I hope you enjoyed that. I just have a comment from Minerva who said, "Just ordered online, merci." Oh, that's so lovely. I'm so pleased that these readings inspire you and make you want to read the books and learn more about the authors. That's what this is all about, that you learn more about authors and discover new authors. So that's absolutely lovely. And we have Alice Leslie who's just wrote, "Oh boy." Yes, will there be an arranged marriage or not? Beyond the Ghetto Gates by Michelle Cameron. I hope you enjoyed that episode. That was fun to read. It's always fun to read when there are different voices. Tricky though, because you don't want to mess them up. And I did at one point, if you noticed. All right, so let me tell you, again, for those of you who have just joined, I will save this to my Facebook story, no, to my Instagram story, and I'll post it to my feed. So if you just joined, don't worry, you can go right back to the beginning, and the same on Facebook. It will end up on my Facebook author page, so the one you're watching from now, Hannah Mary McKinnon. All right, so tomorrow's book. Let me tell you about tomorrow's book. Oh, we just have a comment from Lorraine who says, I've already read Beyond the Ghetto Gates and it's absolutely wonderful. That's fantastic. Brilliant. Okay, so tomorrow's book, very excited about this one. It is, give me a drum roll. Okay, I heard the drum roll. It is The Murder List by the one and only Hank Philippi Ryan. This is what I am going to be reading from tomorrow, right here on First Chapter Fun on Instagram Live and on Facebook Live. So stick around, well, don't stick around because that will be a long time to stick around for, but join me again tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. That would be absolutely lovely. So I hope you have a great Sunday, whether it's Sunday evening or Sunday morning still, or Sunday afternoon. I hope you have a lovely day. I hope you have a nice evening too. And I hope that I will see you again in the morning. So until then, as always, please stay safe, stay kind, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.